Greetings and blessings and welcome to the All Nations Under God podcast YouTube channel. It is the fourth week and final week of Advent. You've made it, and it is peace tonight that we reflect upon as we light the candle. Kitty, when you talk about peace and you say that Jesus is the Prince of Peace and the Prince of Peace has come, people say, I don't see peace in the world. Well, he never promised peace in the world. In fact, he said, in the world you have much trouble. My peace I leave to you, not as the world gives peace, do I give you peace. And so what does that mean? Stick around. It is the fourth and final week of Advent, and if you're following along with your Advent calendar, you can download yours at allnationsundergod.com. We are reading the Gospel of Luke this week, of course, with the announcement to both women of John and Jesus' birth of the forerunner who would prepare the way and make straight the path for the God of peace, who is coming into the world. And his peace is not like the world gives peace. See, they say peace, but what they mean is destroying your enemies until there's none left, and now we have peace. God doesn't operate that way. He doesn't call in the tanks. No. To us a child is born. To us a son is given. And the government shall be on his shoulders, and the peace that he brings will be an everlasting peace. That is Isaiah 9. We're going to look at some of the prophetic promises of his coming. That's what Advent means now. Parousia, the coming of the Lord. And for the first 2 weeks, we talked about hope and faith, and our hope in his second coming, and his coming again. But he's only coming again because he came the first time. So the joy and the peace that we have been focusing on these last 2 weeks is the joy and peace of him coming into the world in the first place. A world in awful trouble. God, who so loved this world, that he gave his only son. He did not send him into the world to condemn it. We did that ourselves. We were condemned. While we were yet his enemies, God sent the Christ into this world to save it, so that we would learn and understand the character of God, the God of peace. And so, peace is one of the fruits of the Spirit. In Galatians 5:22 and following of the list of love and joy and peace and patience, kindness, gentleness, goodness, and self-control. Peace is one of those fruit of the Spirit. Singular fruit. It is fruit that grows when you are in a relationship with God's Spirit. His Spirit dwells in you and now remakes you from the inside out to have the things of God, the character, to take on his name, and that's what that means. We'll see that. We're going to look at the Old Testament use of the word, the Hebrew word for peace, which everyone knows, but when I ask, what's the Hebrew word for peace, no one remembers until I say it, and they say, oh yeah, right, shalom, peace. We're going to look at shalom and the Hebrew term for peace in the Old Testament and what that meant, and of course it means various things. There's various kinds of peace that we're talking about, but we're going to be looking for the peace of God that surpasses understanding, which Paul talks about in Philippians 4:7. We're going to see from the Old Testament, the understandings of peace with God being the ultimate aim of his presence, of his rest, and what that meant. And his rest, his presence, giving us rest from our unrest. That's what the rest of God is about. To see in the Psalms this idea, and now poetry, of course, is a different kind of speech. It is very terse, direct, to the point, but using figures, sort of like the way I try to describe it is if narrative is a motion picture, poetry is a slideshow. So you just see these images that expound and explain the next image, that expounds the past and explains the next image, that expounds on the past and explains the next image. And so you see these pictures of metaphors in poetry, and they're often very short and to the point and direct, but full of all kinds of imagery and meaning beyond just the words. When we're looking at the Word of God, the law of God, His Word, Psalm 119 is all about how amazing the Word is and His law. And 119:165 says, "Great peace have those who love your law. Nothing can make them stumble." And the peace that he's talking about is often used in a term of rest, of restful quietness of spirit. In Isaiah 32, 17 and 18, and the effect of righteousness, the effect of God's covenant faithfulness, righteousness, the effect of righteousness will be peace. And the result of righteousness, quietness and trust forever. The effect of God's covenant faithfulness will be peace. And the result of His covenant faithfulness is going to be quietness and trust forever. My people will abide in a peaceful habitation, in secure dwellings, and in quiet resting places. Psalm 23, very famous, everyone knows Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall lack no good thing. He makes me lie down in green pastures, He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. Now see, in the Hebrew parallelism of poetry, the leading beside the quiet water is the A line, and the B line, He restores my soul, explains what that metaphor means. Of the quiet water is the restoration of your soul. And so it's likened to quieting down the water. And we'll see this when Jesus calms the storm, remember. So the quieting of the water within us, the waters that rage within us, because we're being tossed around. God comes, His presence gives us rest from our unrest, quiets the water within us. And so that is only true if God is your shepherd. If the one you're looking to shepherd your life through the valley of the shadow of death, and through death, and out the other side, which we know now because of Jesus risen from the dead. If He's your shepherd, then He will lead you beside quiet waters. He's a provider of security and rest. So Psalm 34:14 says, "Turn away from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it." Peace is something you pursue. By turning away from the evil and pursuing God, you're pursuing Him in doing good things, doing what He says is good. This is about the tree of knowledge of good and evil, is about you redefining what's good and what's evil. You call evil good and good evil, God says at one point. This is the struggle within the heart of every man, is to trust that what God says is good, and what God says is evil is harmful to you, and it disturbs your water, disturbs your peace. And so we are in an epidemic of anxiety, of depression, of hopelessness, because we've removed God from our knowledge. He's not our shepherd. We then turn to what is not God, anything else. that is not God. Mostly the body, because it's present, and we are using it to try to feel that peace that only comes as a fruit of His Spirit being present in us, you see. And we think that these things are going to give us that peace. It's not going to give you peace. It doesn't. And often, the most hopeless you feel is when you get the thing you think is going to do it. You think, if that's my shepherd, I'll lack no good thing. Well, you get it. And it doesn't do that. It doesn't give you peace. So in the New Testament fulfillment of this, we're going to look at a couple things. First of all, about Jesus talking about peace. But also the idea that people say, well, if He's the Prince of Peace, I don't see a lot of peace and stuff. It's not peace in lives of those who hate God. They don't have peace. They don't pursue the things of God. They don't want peace. They want dominance. They want power. They want money. They want, whatever, pleasure, whatever it is. That's not God that you've replaced God with. So peace then, of the peace of God, is different. The peace of God comes by peace with God. Reconciliation. You're now at peace with God, and so you have peace within. As you're getting to know Him, as you're shunning the things that are evil and against Him, taking on His name, which means His character, and by His grace doing the things that God would do if He were you right now, with all your talents, with your abilities, with your sphere of influence. What would Jesus do there? What would Jesus do if He were you? Mark 4:35, we're going to look at this and see some things that are often overlooked in this. It's Mark 4:35. On that day, when evening had come, Jesus said to the disciples, "Let us go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd, they took Jesus with them in the boat, just as He was. And other boats were with them. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking into the boat, so that the boat was already filling. But He was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke Him up and said, "Teacher, do you not care that we're perishing?" And He woke up and rebuked the wind, and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. He said to them, "Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great fear, and said to one another, "Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey Him?" There are several things here that I want to point out. First of all, ye of little faith, is what the King James says. Have you still no faith, is what the ESV says. The term is unique to Jesus. He's the only one who uses this term, and the literal translation is little faith. Little faith. Peripateo, and little faith. And so, it's a term of endearment, I think. So when we say things like, "Do you still have no faith?" and "Are you of little faith?" as if it's a condescending, that He's... No, I think it's endearing. I think He's saying, little faith. How long do I have to put up with you? He'll say at one point. It doesn't mean he hates them. And it doesn't mean that they're outside either. It's because they're inside. It's because He loves them and they love Him that He uses this term, little faith. What are you talking about here? Having bread. He's teaching them. He is their teacher. Alright. But also, the sea is holy, in that it is other than us. It is outside our control. Nature is holy. It's outside of our control. And it is dangerous because of that. It is dangerous to us at times. Jesus is holy. He's holier than nature. His power and His holiness, with a word, says peace to the sea. Everything calms down. Well, that's not a problem for Him if He is the Word who made it. He made it all. So he can say to it, peace, be still, calm down. Who is this man? They were more afraid of him than they were of the storm. That's important. But also what's important is to notice the very first lines of this, of 35 and 36, that is, in 35, the evening had come. It's now night. He says to them, let's go across to the other side. God is telling them, let's go to the other side. And then the storm comes and hits when they obey him. That's important. It's important to know that often when you obey the very thing that God says to do, the storms are going to come. And it's okay to know that. And you can withstand them if God is in the boat with you. Is Jesus in the boat? If he's in the boat, even if the storm destroys you, even if he slay me, I will trust him. If he's in the boat with you. There is someone who needs to hear that today. Because we're going toward death. We're plummeting in our boats toward a storm. But the peace of God, the peace he gives, John 14 and John 16, my peace I give to you. It's not like the world gives. No. In this world you'll have troubles. But take heart. I've overcome the world. I've overcome it. And so we can overcome it. And the peace of God that surpasses understanding, you see. Because our understanding is only of this place. But there are things that are outside of our control and our understanding. And we see those things. We feel the wind and its effects. We don't know where it comes from. We can't see it. That's how it is with the Spirit, Jesus would say. We feel the effects of God. We see the effects around us. We feel his presence. We don't see him. But if he's with us, then his peace, the fruit of his Spirit, will start to grow in us. And so this is important because the opposite is true as well. If he's not with us, we will feel the effects. We will see the effects in our life. That our tree will not be bearing good fruit of love and joy and peace and patience, kindness, gentleness, goodness, and self-control. Those are things that we don't do on our own. Those are things that God does within us. But it comes by surrender. It comes by obeying his word, which often means storms. But trusting that the peace of God that is with us, that this is God's love that overwhelms us with peace and joy. And so now, may the God of peace, who brought again from the dead our Lord Jesus, the great shepherd of the sheep, by the blood of the eternal covenant, may he equip you with everything good, that you may do his will, working in us that which is pleasing in his sight, through Jesus Christ, to whom be glory forever and ever. Amen. Of course, we are also selling the single instrumental you hear at the beginning of these Advent videos for $1 on our Patreon page. And we are using that money to help fund the ministry here. We're feeding and clothing people in the Hudson Valley of New York. God is blessing this ministry, and we're excited. We'll put some pictures up on the website. We put some pictures on our Facebook to show you the clothing pantry that we have, the donations that have been pouring in, and the needs as well. And so we've been able to meet some families' needs this Christmas, which is just a blessing. God is amazing, because if you have the vision, and then your intention is to do it, and you pray and get God involved with it, the means always come. The means always come. And so don't say, if only I had the means. The means are not your responsibility always, you know. We are for one another. We are here to help one another. And so if we put out the vision and we tell people that our intentions, and we do it. And that took me transforming an entire area of my house, and the means immediately started coming from people who really do want to help. There is good in this world, and that is because of the Spirit of God, who is the Father of lights, from which every good thing comes, James says. All right, so if you want to help in this effort, if you want to help us in some way, let me put something in your hands that will bless you, Lord willing. And that is music. I'm a musician, and so you hear the music that's on this channel is all written by me. I also have books of poetry. If we are on a Patreon page, that is patreon.com/allnationsundergod, and you'll see that there's stuff that I'm not asking for donations for nothing. I'm trying to use my talents and gifts to give you something that will bless you, and in return, you will bless this ministry. And so if that's something of interest to you, go over to our Patreon page, or just check us out at Nations Under on Facebook and Twitter. We are on Reddit, All Nations Under God. We are on the YouTube channel here. You can leave comments. You can reach out to us in all kinds of ways. All right? So God bless you in this Christmas season. God bless you in your reflection of the coming of the Lord. Unto us a child is born. Unto us a son is given. The son wasn't born. The child was. The son has always been. The Son of Righteousness with healing in his wings has come. God bless you, family. It's Chris Wood. To All Nations Under God.